Right, we're back live tonight here on In Focus. The BRICS Parliamentary Forum is currently underway and aims to bolster cooperation between member states. National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula says South Africa is playing a rather key role in deepening parliamentary diplomacy and can certainly play an even bigger role in the implementation of the Africa Free Trade Agreement. The National Council of Provinces Deputy Chairperson Sylvia Lucas joins us now for more insight into this forum. Lucas, good evening and thank you very much for coming on and joining us tonight here on In Focus. Let's start at this question of parliamentary diplomacy. It means it's a rather useful tool in terms of conducting ongoing dialogue between two or more parliaments around the world, but it can play a key role in addressing some international issues. What are the international issues that the forum seeks to address in this dialogue?
Good evening, sir. I should say that in the forum that we have been discussing, particularly one of the very important things was the issue of peace, and also the issue of, if we speak about peace, not only peace, also the issue of energies and the issue of climate change. There is contemporary current issues that is there, and that is what we have been discussing amongst ourselves and our partners in the BRICS Parliamentary Forum. But also, our responsibility as Parliament is to make sure that we enhance dialogue around accountability, around oversight, around the participation of partners in the different elements or the different legislative elements, the different kind of policy issues that our executives decide about. So Parliament has got a responsibility to make sure that in terms of our partners, of our sister or brother parliaments, we are on the same level with regards to the issues that need to be addressed, to make sure that through our oversight and through our measures of holding executive accountable, our citizens benefit from the agreements that are being taken by our parliaments. So if we speak about parliamentary diplomacy, we also speak of the rules of engagement, of how we engage with one another on issues that is there, that we should make sure that the areas of implementation respond to the legislative and the policy issues or the policy positions that we take as the different parliaments.
There are some members of the South African Parliament, to be exact, members of the Democratic Alliance, who are MPs, who feel that in your pursuit of harnessing multilateralism, you are in this forum pushing anti-West propaganda as opposed to indicating a sense of wanting a cooperation broadly across all states.
What was really significant is that all the member states or the partners that we met with, all of them, first of all, accept the United Nations as a multilateral body that brings together states. They address the weaknesses, but not necessarily the fact that the body is existing, and they are not necessarily addressing the principle. They are speaking about the weaknesses. And if there is people that feel that there is an anti-West sentiment that is being driven, if we say that it should not be that because of the fact that you are giving aid to a developing country, you should want to determine what should be the legislation or the policies, or what should be the agenda or the program of that specific country. If that is an anti-West agenda, according to those that think so, I don't know what we should say. Because all of them say that countries should be allowed to have their own set of rules that govern them. They should be allowed to have their own policy positions, and they should be allowed to decide about whatever they want for themselves, and that we should respect the sovereignty of one another. So if there is weaknesses in terms of that specific issues, for instance, just recently, I'm just mentioning an example that I should think that shouldn't be something that should have happened. I heard on the news that France said we are withdrawing our soldiers from Niger because they are not fighting terrorism. I mean, how does it happen that a developed country have got troops in a developing country? What is the agenda that they are driving? If that is an anti-West agenda, I don't understand. What we are asking is that countries must treat one another as equals and respect the sovereignty of each and every country. That is the issue.
And as far as then the other aspects that you are mentioning, climate change, for example, we know in South Africa the climate change bill was introduced to Parliament in February of 2022. It has not yet made it to being the law of the country. What is the hold-up and what are the issues that still need to be cleared?
Interesting that the issue of the climate change bill is being raised now. Just recently, we discussed this issue of the climate change and how do we legislate issues around the climate change. And the problem or the challenge that people are experiencing is the fact that we need to be able to agree on a just transition. And that is one of the elements that is making weaker countries in terms of monetary power or in terms also of resource power, that make weaker countries to be very much skeptical about the issue of saying that, but you must decrease your emissions and you must do what. But then you find that the very same capable countries, that is capable in terms of monetary resources, in terms of human capital, is the ones that is the biggest like emitters, and they are not really coming to the party. So for us to agree on saying that there should be legislation, yes indeed, but what is the context within which you are going to implement that legislation? And how are you going to be sure that you will be able to hold those accountable that must implement that legislation? So that is why it is easy to say, but we can legislate about it. But what is the context within which you legislate? But with regards to the issue of the climate change bill, I think it's one of the bills that we said that we should identify legislation that is long outstanding and that should identify legislation that is necessary to make sure that it became passed before the end of this term. And I think that bill should be one of them. So
what's the feeling around the BRICS partners? Do they feel that South Africa, other African states, China, India, and so on and so forth should give effect to some of the commitments that were made, for example, around the climate change obligations? Because there is a big debate now currently around moving towards low carbon energy generation. And others are saying, well, we've got the coal-fired power plants. They should continue to work, while others are saying, but the National Development Plan says we are moving towards a low-carbon economy and society, and so there's that back and forth. What's the feeling? How does this forum engage with that debate and help unlock a way forward?
Today we met with few of the partners, and I was sitting in this bilaterals where we met with few of the partners. And without mentioning names, some of them actually said that they know that Africa needs support to make sure that we are able to transit to renewable energy and other sources. Currently, taking into account the position of countries within the Africa Free Trade Agreement context, taking into account that issues of renewable energy become, in terms of the needs and some levels of poverty, it becomes something that take a little bit of the back burner. But Brazil, for instance, India, for instance, Iran, for instance, are countries that are more than prepared to assist with the technology. China, for instance, with the technology, the best technology that they really have with regards to issues of renewable energy. They are more than prepared, and it was mentioned by all of them explicitly So that means that there is really a commitment to make sure that we all transition to a position where renewable energy sources will be used alongside existing fossil fuels to make sure that there is like a smoothless transition to issues of renewable energy. Because that was like some of the support that they actually pledge to make sure that they use the technology that they have, the best technology, that's what they mentioned, and also the fact that already in terms of renewable energy, and particularly the new buzzword of hydrogen technology, that is the things that they actually committed to assist if possible.
The 9th BRICS Parliamentary Forum being the conversation we are having with the National Council of Provinces Deputy Chairperson, Sylvia Lucas. We've already spoken on the question of climate change, the question of the anti-West propaganda or multilateralism. Let's focus now on the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Deputy Chair, some are saying that there are proposals and calls for the abolition of visa requirements, especially amongst African trading partners, but maybe even amongst the BRICS partners. What is coming out from the forum?
Yesterday, there was a debate of which representatives of all of the countries that was present was actually addressing the plenary. And in all of it, the only thing that I could hear was the possibilities, and the possibilities really for working together to make sure that Africa, particularly since Africa is a country that can provide like for areas like the minerals, resources, and all of that, and then also the technology that they have, and how, for instance, a country that is specializing in giving assistance for infrastructure and so on. But there was not necessarily an issue that I could say that I could hear specifically, but it was not necessarily African countries. It was only Namibia and Mozambique that was there. That was other countries, the other countries that was there that spoke to it. And I think possibly it was not because it's not in the reference framework. Yeah. That's why they didn't necessarily speak about it. Yeah. What they spoke about is what is the possibilities that is being offered by a market of almost 1.4 billion people, that actually, and the resource that can come out of that human resource, and also how they can assist with like socio-economic issues, like building bridges over rivers, developing roads and things like that, the social agenda, yeah. But also with the aim to build the economy. So if I say something about visa requirements and so on, it's just like enablement. That is one of the things that came out strongly, that the legislation, the policies, the things should allow them to be able to trade, but also be able to invest within their countries without a lot of blueprint that will come out from that. Yeah. But maybe because it is not within the framework, and I'm speaking from the countries that spoke there. Yeah. I don't want to speak about something that I just generally.
So at least those two countries that you're mentioning, which are very close to South Africa, you're saying there's a sense that yes, we can deepen the African partnerships, but it does not necessarily mean, for example, we would need to forego things like visa requirements, even though we can maybe create a more enabling environment in how they are processed to facilitate the trade between the countries.
And that is what came out in the debate. So the issue of visa requirements and so on didn't come out very strongly. You hear people speak about it, that didn't come out very strongly. And that is why I can't comment on something that didn't come up very strongly in our discussions.
And the conversations that, of course, have been dominating much of the news today is around the quotas on export of national resources to foreign markets and to the West. What's the feeling there? I know some were making, for example, economic freedom fighters were making a presentation to say countries need to begin to move away from extractive policies, and especially that promote the West extracting natural resources from the continent. Is that the overall general feeling amongst the member states?
What I can say is that we had 4 commissions, and in the different commissions, this things was discussed. And I think the outcomes of the commissions was open to the media, and I'm sure in terms of what they have decided on different, or what they have proposed, because this is proposals. What they have proposed, it might be that there was a feeling like that, because for some time, African countries have been saying that. But like I said, those that have been present, the majority of them was like from the other countries that is now waiting to be BRICS, members of the BRICS, and the current BRICS members that was there. But one thing that I know that members feel strong about is that there should be downstream beneficiation. And it's not a new story. It is not a new story. As a member of the ruling party, this has been a resolution for many years on the table, that there should be downstream beneficiation and that we shouldn't just export the raw materials, but begin to make sure that we actually get some added benefit from the mineral resources, of the natural resources that are available in our countries.
Yeah. Overall, Deputy Chair, do you think it was a well-planned forum? There are concerns, for example, around some teething issues in the beginning, late starting. There are questions, for example, around particular delegates not making it, failing to attend, issues around the limited delegation. How do you feel about the organization overall?
The organization and the logistical arrangements was overall very satisfactory, I should say. I think, and if they say late start, maybe 20 minutes later, because at that stage, we wanted the Deputy President to open the conference, and when the Deputy President came, there were some of the countries that wanted to engage with him that moment. We gave them a few minutes, and after that, we started. And so the other issues, that was there, I think sometimes people must begin to understand. You will always find, in anything that you arrange, you will find that there is here and there something that doesn't necessarily go accordingly. And 2 or 3 of the speakers from African countries have actually informed us that they will be part and parcel of the event. But then the same people apologize again because there is a parliamentary event in Uruguay that they preferred to attend. Because you must remember there are still other parliamentary fora that will sit later in the year, and there is some elections and things that will follow. So people actually maybe went to follow the interests so that they can make sure they also advance themselves. That is some of the issues that we can say. But we are so satisfied with the attendance of the people, because remember, we expected about 250 delegates, and we so much nearly made it there. And even the South African Parliament, all parties, maybe I'm not so sure about the DA, but all parties, COPE, whatever party was there, all of them sent delegates, and they attended up until the last day, up until the last moment. So I think there was really big interest in this forum. And you must remember, the BRICS Parliamentary Forum, it is more or less in my time, and I am almost 5 years in Parliament now, it is the first time that we have a lone standing BRICS Parliamentary Forum sitting. For all these years, the BRICS Parliamentary Forum was meeting at the sidelines of the IPU or at the sidelines of BRICS, but not independently after it was launched in 2015 in Russia. So for us to have this, and with relative success, to have pulled this off, it is a big issue. And it will actually set an example as to how we can make sure that the BRICS Parliamentary Forum henceforth is being developed or being brought together.
Deputy Chairperson, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on. The Deputy Chairperson for the National Council of Provinces, Sylvia Lucas. Right.